Welcome to Empower You, everybody. It's so good to have you here tonight. I'm Dan Reganold, and the goal of Empower You, as many of you know, is to educate, enjoy, engage, and that is the goal of these free sessions that are all meant to help get you more empowered in your lives. We want to get you involved in important topics tonight, like government mandates. You just hear that word everywhere, don't you? And really getting out of this mess that we have been living in. So tonight, I wanted to take a minute and introduce you to our team. This is the only virtual session we're going to do this semester, but I still wanted to introduce you to the team in case you don't get a chance to join us live at any of our sessions. Let me find the little share button, and let me introduce you to them. Here they are. We have got our great executive director, Betty Overstreet. Jill Google is our operations manager, and Jill is the person who created this great backdrop for me. She and Leanne, and I just kind of feel great tonight to have that there. And thanks to Jill and Leanne. Bill Rolls, our treasurer. Jay Grunke's on the board. We've got our board members, Joe Platt, Ken Bowman, Karen Cartier, Bill Monnier, Nita Thomas, Barb Horowitz, and John O'Neill. We're really glad to have the opportunity to learn with you. So Empower You Studio is open for classes for the rest of the semester with full seating. Our next class will be Thursday. We'll tell you about it in a minute. And we had a great audience for our first class last Thursday. So if you get a chance, join us in the studio. If you're still concerned about being out, join us online. Two great ways to watch, and we hope you'll enjoy the new camera system that we've put in the studio for those of you who watch our classes online. We are a free university, so we want to pass the hat virtually tonight, help us with our expenses for production, advertising, and staffing. I just want to say thank you. So many of you, my phone keeps running out of juice because I just keep watching people hit the register button for all the classes. We just have a great schedule, and so many people have donated to help fund Empower You. And it's kind of cool to be able to try to offer something free that's just supported by the people that are using it. And you guys have really knocked it out. So thank you. But the easiest way to donate, if you want to, is just go to EmpowerUAmerica.org, and up in the right-hand corner, there's a little donate button, or you can donate when you register for a class. There's a spot you can drop in a couple bucks or $5 or whatever. So I had a couple people complain to me about the fact I didn't have any required reading for last Thursday night's class. So last Thursday night, we had just an incredible 13-year-old young man, Hawk Busby. I've got his name spelled wrong in the slide. Sorry about that, Hawk. But what he talked about was kids' voices and how kids can make a difference, and how the decisions that us adults make today are going to affect his generation, not always in the best way. And Hawk was kind enough to send me a copy of his text, which was also deeply talking about critical race theory and what it's like to be a kid growing up. And it was just so powerful as I read it. I thought I needed to post it online. It's under tonight's class. You can go, and I just encourage you to read it and try to immerse yourself in what kids are thinking about. It was powerful. I'm also going to give you a little bit of required listening. I've never done that before, but I was sitting listening to a podcast, which I don't listen to often, and I noticed Megyn Kelly was going to be talking to Tucker Carlson. I didn't think it'd be too good, but boy, did it ever get deep. I mean, it was it was just quite a discussion. Some of the areas that I never thought would come up were Tucker Carlson talking about how much he drank and partied in the early days, and how, in his words, these are his words, not mine, he would never read that shit from Bob Woodward. He talked about Lindsey Graham, how he thought he was a fraud. He talked about how he felt like AOC has in her own way got some talent. And he talked about a major change that he felt was going to be coming to the USA. His prediction was Chris Cuomo would be fired from CNN. What a shame. And surprisingly, no TVs in the house, And his overriding message in the podcast that I thought was a great message was don't let them get in your headspace, no matter how bad it is. It was a great listen. So if you get a chance, check out Megan Kelly's podcast with Tucker Carlson. I think it was September 24th, dated. Give it a shot. So you always know we do a giveaway. We're going to do the giveaways a little bit different tonight. And the way we're going to do it is if you register for the class, you're registered to win. You don't need to do anything else. We've got two good ones. The first is Ben Shapiro's new book, The Authoritarian Moment. There are so many people that categorize as authoritarians. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but I think it's going to be a great read. And if you win it tonight, I hope you'll come back and do a little book report. So I kind of hyped a little bit the next giveaway that we've got. Maybe, but I don't think I hyped it too much. I just said perhaps it was the most important giveaway we'd ever done. So last week, you all saw it on the news, the week at the border, the shock of Rainsgate, what happened in Del Rio. Well, at EmpowerUAmerica, we had a staff meeting, and we just felt compelled to send our advance team down to investigate this serious abuse. And the person we sent down there came back a little worse for wear in the mess, but they brought with them, in my mind, perhaps the biggest giveaway we've ever had at EmpowerU. And tonight is your chance to win that giveaway. So what we have, here we go. We have a giveaway of a souvenir, the souvenir official, come on man, official Joe Biden horse reins. Whoa, delivered right from Del Rio, Texas. And note on the reins, these are, I want to be clear, these are for novelty use only, please. Only for abuse of taxpayers. And oh, my friends, you are automatically scheduled to win. I was out of the office today. Jill called me kind of on a stat thing, and she said, Dan, did you get a horse? And I said, no, Jill, that's from the Joe Biden souvenir reins that we're going to give away tonight. One lucky watcher of EmpowerU. So hopefully it'll be you. So just to recap, last Thursday's class, we talked about critical race theory, and we talked about what's going on in Ohio, and we had Hawk Busby with us. And, please tell your friends that if you don't get a chance to watch the classes, if you're busy, if you just wait 24 hours, you can go to a class on EmpowerUOhio.org. That's what it used to be. It's now EmpowerUAmerica. Either address works. Just look for the link for the recording, and you'll be able to watch the recording, fast forward it, do whatever you want. I wanted to let anybody out there interested to know that testimony on House Bill 327, the bill to end critical race theory in Ohio, will be next Wednesday, October 6th at 3 p.m. So a week from tomorrow. I want to ask you to consider testifying or sending in testimony. It's super important. We did so well on the first round of testimony. I think we had about 30 or 35 people testify. Many people testified in person, and I watched some of them and they were great. But then there's been a round of testimony. They took 2 months off then, unfortunately. There's been a round of testimony last week. I heard it was flooded with professors, university people mostly, school officials who don't want, who don't want their hands tied. They want to be able to teach anything they want in their schools, whether it's divisive or not. So we need you to consider testifying, and you know who you are out there. So think about it. If you want details, just send me a note, dan@empoweruamerica.org, if you're interested in testifying. Just a couple future classes before we start. Thursday, Systemic Woke Suburban Thuggery with Rachel Sitek and Max Black. They're going to talk about cancel culture and what's going on in the suburbs, and how people are trying to shut you down from speaking. Rachel's an attorney who's spoken several times about critical race theory, and Max has a great new podcast called Canceled Out. You'll also hear from Brendan Shea, a father of 5 and an Ohio school board member. He'll speak about education in Ohio. And then on October 5th, we are going to have Mike Gonzalez from the Heritage Foundation. He's the foremost expert on critical race theory in the country. He's going to come in and talk about the foundation of what critical race theory and critical theory is, and its relationship to Marxism. It's always been kind of I haven't understood it fully until recently. And I think you might be interested in watching that class so that you can kind of know your talking points. I've heard Mike speak a couple times. He's great. We've also added on somebody to the schedule who isn't on the schedule, and that's Isaac Adi, a Nigerian running for school board in Lakota. I had a chance to meet him at the protest last week. He was incredible. And his words are, in America, we are all given an equal opportunity to succeed. But tonight, we have Ruth Edmonds and Jennifer Gross, two fast-growing leaders in Ohio. So Ruth Edmonds is the Director of Christian Engagement at the Center for Christian Virtue. She's a licensed ordained minister and a Christian conservative leader, public policy activist, and a sought-after voice by clergy, lay ministers, the faith community. She talks about critical race theory, school choice. She's been on many, many big shows, and recently she was a candidate for U.S. Congress. She's got a distinguished public service career, including office holders at Franklin County Auditor Clarence Mingo, Ohio Governor Bob Taft. She's a former president of the NAACP. I really wasn't familiar with Ruth until I saw this story about her on the Tucker Carlson show. This clip left me with such an impression that I just had to meet Ruth, and I wanted you to also. Here is part of what I saw on the Tucker Carlson show.
So there's an opening in the Ohio congressional delegation, 15th congressional district, and a lot of people running the Republican primary, 11 primaries on August 3rd of this year. The winner will then compete in a special election in November to replace former Congressman Steve Stivers. Now, one candidate in the race came to our attention. Her name is Ruth Edmonds. She's the former president of the Columbus NAACP. She's also an ordained minister. One of the things she's running on is we need to stop racism in our schools of all kinds. Here's how she put it.
I'm a patriot. I love the United States. We're not perfect, never have been, but we are the greatest nation on the face of the earth. It's time to stop judging every white person as a villain and every brown person as a victim. We are one country, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may have also seen this description of Ruth that I think we put out for publicity. From ghetto girl to God's ambassador, Ruth Edmonds is a self-professed modern-day government mountain prophet with the loyalty of Ruth, the anointing of Deborah, and the call like Esther. Ruth Edmonds, welcome to Empower You. We are so glad to have you tonight.
Well, good evening, everyone. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you and the students of Empower You.
So Ruth, I don't even know how somebody lives up to a reputation like I just read. Ghetto girl to God's ambassador, a self-professed modern day government mountain prophet. This is something I long to be. How did you do that?
That's really interesting. Well, I say that because, my beginnings were very humble. I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland. It's what, at the time that I grew up, where I grew up, it was the ghetto. And yet, what can, there's a scripture that says, can anything good come out of, and so can anything good come out of the inner city ghettos of Baltimore, Maryland? Well, absolutely. And I'm a testimony of it. And my story is an American story. There's another person who's running for a high office, and his whole story is that he came from the hillbillies, the hills of Kentucky. So it's an American story, whether you're brown skinned or whether you're light skinned. Our American story is very diverse, but it's also uniquely the same.
So when you tell people, so you ran for Congress, and was it a special election, or what was it exactly?
Yes, it was a special primary election. The seating congressman at the time was Steve Stivers, and he stepped down from the seat, which forced a special primary, Republican primary. And I was running to be the endorsed Republican candidate for the 15th House district going into the November election of this year.
And was that the first time you'd ever run for any kind of election?
No, actually, it wasn't. Here in Franklin County, and Columbus, Ohio, particularly back in the mid to late 90s, I actually ran for Columbus City Council, and then I ran for Columbus Board of Education.
So where did you, at what point in your life, in your evolution, time, one of the things you said in the ad that you ran, it's time to stop judging white persons as villains, and every brown person is not a victim. Where did that kind of, where did that come from? How did that evolution transpire in you?
Well, it transpired because it was the truth, and it is the truth. And that came from my upbringing. I shared in the campaign that I was raised by my grandmother Pearl, who only had a 4th grade education, and yet she taught me values and principles and ethics, some of which were own your stuff. You may one day be better off than someone, but you'll never be better than anyone. Never allow barriers, to keep you from what you need to do. And in my household, in my family, in my community in Baltimore, we didn't talk about what the white man did or what the black man wasn't able to do. We were all about, just living living our lives, enjoying our community, our family. I grew up in the church. I had a great, church community. And so there was the seed of hate, the seed of dishonoring, human beings was never, ever placed in my heart. So as I grew up, I didn't have a disdain for people, for Caucasians or anyone else. Interestingly enough, I will say that growing up in my neighborhood, and my peers in school, I was actually bullied and teased by brown-skinned people. My brown skin was too dark, my hair was too short, I was too skinny, I had buck teeth because I sucked my thumb, and my speech was really clear. And so I couldn't catch a break with people of my own color. And so it never dawned on me to treat people differently or disrespectfully, because I had been treated so meanfully and disrespectfully by my own people. And so I think that actually helped me have a compassion for all people, and to not judge people by the color of their skin.
when you use the word time to stop judging white people as villains and every brown person as victim, everyone is not victims. How did your competitors in that race, did they say, well, she's lying, or don't believe her, or she's just trying to say the right thing? How did they respond to you?
Oh, they loved it. As a matter of fact, they wished.
I love it too.
Yeah, they were cheering me on because I was able to say what everybody knows is true. I was able to say what most Caucasians cannot say, but it is true. And so they were cheering me on. They were not in the least bit angry. As a matter of fact, they knew that really was, that gave me a very strong competitive advantage over them. And so, because it is the truth. And so, no, they welcomed me saying that.
So I know you've spoken out about critical race theory, and in our discussion we're just having about what you've said. What do you think the core issues are in terms of education in Ohio, and what do the students need to do to get a fair shake in Ohio? Because they're surely not getting one now.
The core issues right now with our education system is that parents are not empowered by the system itself. It is right now the system, in a lot of ways, has historically, or at least within the last 30 years, has kind of kept a rein on the education system, and basically kind of sent the message, hey, you bring them to us and we'll take care of them, don't you worry about a thing, we got them. And in fact, they do. And so you lost a lot of PTAs, you lost a lot of PTOs. Parents started backing out of the school system. And not only that, but then parent and so I don't necessarily blame the school district, all together for that, because quite frankly, we as parents, our children are our responsibility. As my grandmother said, own your stuff. And in this instance, we have to own the responsibility and the obligation to parent our children. And in a lot of ways, we sent them off to school, put them on the bus, couldn't wait till they got off, till they got there. And then, unfortunately, we live in a culture where, the two-family income is very necessary in this economy, which again is unfortunate because a lot of families don't have the liberty to have one parent at home. And so, you look at the economy, parents, two parents now are working, or you have a single parent household and she's or he is working, trying to make ends meet. What we had was an exodus of parents from the education system. And when you do that, you leave the door open for those ne'er-do-wells. And I'm not talking about educators. I'm talking about, in a lot of ways, administrators and trade associations wheeling and dealing and making all kinds of, deals to fatten their coffers. And we've got contractors now who are coming into the schools and peddling and selling, snake oil. And as a result, with parents not being there, we've got this these false narratives entering into our school district. So we've got to get back. Parents have got to get back front and center, running for school board, being on the PTA, spending time in the schools. If there are no children, there is no school district. If there are no parents, there are no children, and then there is no school district. So parents are at the top of the food chain when it comes to the education system.
So would you say then the parent that's in Cincinnati tonight that might be listening to us, that, they're just wondering what they need to do to better improve their child's situation, your message to them is they've got to get all into the school district and get immersed in everything their kid is doing?
Absolutely. It's their responsibility. No one, I don't think there was one teacher or administrator or Board of Education member who was in the room when these children were being formed, made, and created. Okay. So it's the responsibility of those creators, those parents. It's our responsibility. They are our children. And God is holding us accountable for how we are parenting, stewarding, raising up our children. It's our responsibility, and we've got to get back in there and do it.
And God is holding us all responsible too for some of the messes that we've created. Now, tell us about your work at CCV in terms of what you do, because when I heard you talk about going to the Ohio State House and praying with other pastors over the legislators, tell us about that. That's exciting.
Yeah, really great and good news to the Christian community, to patriots, to let you know that there's an organization in the state of Ohio, and it's called the Center for Christian Virtue. We are not backing away from what our primary source and of our calling, and that is to govern on the mountain of government. That is our assignment. And so Center for Christian Virtue is a Christian public policy organization. We're nonprofit, nonpartisan. We advocate for public policy that reflects the truth of the gospel. Our mission field is the Ohio State House. And as such, we do that in a few different ways. We advocate for Ohio's Christian educators and schools. We have, we're looking at legislation, making sure that it is not infringing on the rights of Christian schools, religious schools, to be able to teach and to have staff according to their faith values. We also are at the State House paying attention to the kinds of legislation that might impact Christian businesses. So we have a Christian business partnership where we inform and educate and equip Christian businesses about public policy that's coming down the pike. And we educate them and we engage them to speak on hearings. We also have the Church Ambassador Network. That is our third leg. And that is the leg that engages the kingdom of God in the State House. There is no such thing as separation of church and state. And I know that your students know that. That is not in the Constitution. It says that Congress shall not infringe upon the rights of us to have, to practice our faith belief. Shall make no law. That's right. And so with regard to what you're showing right there, the backpack bill, that is the bill where we are saying that the dollars follow the child. So with the backpack bill, we are asking citizens to write to their legislators, and we've got those cute little cards that say that we want you to support the backpack bill so that dollars follow the child and not the brick and mortar. And when that happens, then parents will have the opportunity to take back the power that we just talked about that they have. So we've got those three legs of CCV, the Christian Business Partnership. We have the Ohio Christian Education Network, which is pushing that backpack bill. And we have the Church Ambassador Network that engages shepherds of God's church with shepherds of God's government, because we can pass laws all day long, but if we're not dealing with the heart of man, then we are missing the point. So, we want to make sure that our legislators also get introduced to the gospel good news as well.
Ruth, what's the status of the backpack bill? Where's it at right now?
Thank you. So the backpack bill right now is we're back and forth with making sure that the legislation is exactly the way it needs to be. It has been introduced, but we have the legislative services next week. The first week of October, we will have a press conference. And once we have the press conference, then there will start to be hearings on the backpack bill. When we have hearings, we're asking all citizens in the state of Ohio to, again, make your voice known, your position known to the legislators. We're going to be having proponent testimony. We will ask the citizenry to come and to give testimony that it is important for parents to determine the quality of the education that their children will have, and not bureaucrats who are really just, taking the citizens' money, because we don't have a money issue with education. We have an allocation issue.
Could everybody imagine what it would be like to be able to take a wad of money and send your kid wherever you wanted to send them to? It's just the most incredible opportunity we have, and I just think it's got so much potential, Ruth. So Ruth, what's next? What's next on your agenda? What's next for you?
Well, right now I'm at CCV, and I invite everybody to go to ccv.org and learn more about us, learn more about the backpack bill. God has me right now using the momentum that we were able to gain in that in that campaign to level up even more to the nation, that we've got to stand up and speak out against the false narratives that come down the pike by postmodernists, interests, people we don't even know are spewing things and changing language. We don't have to put up with that. We know, that 1 + 1 is 2. You're not going to change that. We know that, what words are. We know what a boy is and what a girl is, and we're not going to change that. So we need citizens, we need patriots, we need conservatives, we need Christians to stand up and to speak out and to say, no, it is a lie to say that our country is inherently racist. That is not true. We are the greatest country in this world, and that's what has to be our message. And that is the message that I'm going to continue to herald everywhere I get the opportunity to go.
Ruth Edmonds, it's a good feeling for me to know that God has placed you on our side. And thank you so much for joining Empower You tonight. And I hope you have a great night. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Wow. Thank you very much to Ruth Edmonds. So moving on, we got a big night tonight. I just can't wait to introduce freshman state rep Jennifer Gross, District 52, Westchester. She's going to join Empower You tonight to talk about various issues. I know you all want to hear about House Bill 248, the Vaccine Choice and Anti-Discrimination Act, authored by Representative Gross and 15 co-sponsors. Maybe that's changed a little bit. And this bill would prohibit the imposition of a vaccine mandate and carry a vaccine passport in order for Ohioans to work. The proposed legislation has caused really a dramatic separation of viewpoints among legislators, businesses, and Ohioans. State Rep Gross is serving her first term. She represents Westchester. As I said, she's a 21-year Air Force veteran, a retired lieutenant colonel who served our great nation in Saudi Arabia during Operation Provide Comfort and in Sarajevo during Operation Provide Promise. She retired from the military in 2008. I think I read something about she wanted to try to re-enlist and they told her that she was too old. I'm eager to hear about that. And she's currently a member of American Legion Post 681. She also served as a family nurse practitioner where she kind of got into the whole medical thing around the time of COVID. She resides in Westchester with her husband, Chris, and their 2 sons. Jennifer Gross, welcome to Empower You tonight.
Hi, how are you, Dan? Thank you
Excellent.
so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me.
So where do we start? Do you want to kind of just give us a rundown of I mean, everybody wants to know where everything's at. They've read about you getting booted off the health committee. Just where do you want to start at?
I'll start at the beginning. Those of you who know me know that if you give me 2 minutes, that's not possible. And if you give me 30, I can still talk longer. So I did write a little outline so that I stay on track. And one of the things that you had asked me,
Jennifer, let me just say that anybody that has questions as we go, because it's kind of technical, just go to the Q&A area at the bottom of the screen and write your question. And Jennifer, if it's okay, I might interject every once in a while and just kind of fire a question at you. Okay,
absolutely.
Good.
As long as you guys don't send me back to Saudi Arabia, we're good. My screen went crazy. So, okay. So anyway, we'll just start talking, but you had asked me what my feeling of government was and why did I get involved in the House? I mean, honestly, again, Ruth is my sister from another mother and placed here by the Lord, I think, honestly, called by fellow conservatives to consider running for office. And service is a way of life after you've served in our military for 21 years. And really, if you had said to me, Dan, 4 years ago that I'd be in the legislature, I would have said maybe you needed to be admitted somewhere, because 4 years ago I was a mom doing a homeschool tour in the State House. So what I want people to know is that when God calls you, there's no stopping that calling on your life. So I want to give you guys an example of where we are today and why it's so important that you're involved in this process with you at Empower You, and also listening to me tonight. You know, a lot of you have been working, you have been voting, you have been trusting that the people that you sent to Columbus and to Washington were going there with your values, right? You thought that you were going to work, you're going to pay the taxes. Well, it's like this. You have a kid and you have a candy jar and you're the parent. So you're out working, providing candy for the candy jar, and you're telling that child, your legislature, your representative, you get one candy a day and I'm going to go out work. I'm going to supply that candy for you. I mean, maybe not a good example, but stay with me here. And you trust that that kid is only having one candy a day and you've been working hard providing that and doing that. And then all of a sudden you look up one day and that kid's kicking you and sitting on you because they've become so huge. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been working, raising my family, doing everything that's right. And all of a sudden, you're not representing my values. And I think that that's where we are today. We have finally gotten to the point when it comes to medical freedom and the autonomy to decide what goes in your body. We finally realized, oh my gosh, this kid is sitting on me now. You know, it's out of control. And I think that the people are waking up. And, you know, I'm very thankful to be in this position, but that's what I really want you guys to hear tonight is I need you to wake up. You know, there's a meme right now that says it's too late for the sheep. It's time to wake up the lions, and we need you. So yes, where do we go from here? First of all, I was not formally removed from Health Committee until today, an hour before Health Committee met. And I don't know if that was an oversight, but I found it fascinating. And I was going to show up at Health Committee, but I got a nice little love note that said, you're not welcome. So, you know, why did that happen? Well, let's talk a little bit about 248. Do you guys know that we've had 13 to 1,500 documented witness statements for this bill? I would argue that is the most in a 6-month period we've ever had in Ohio. I would encourage people to public records request all their representatives and find out how many letters did they get written about 248. And I may get in trouble for saying that, but I would like to see the percentage of pros. You know, like let's say mine would be 80% for HB 248 and then 20% negative. Maybe I'm over embellishing. I don't mean to. But I would like to know for each and every House rep, Democrat and Republican, how many letters they got because we can't delete them. So I would like to see that. So the gist of it was you guys asked me, what can we do? And so you did it. You wrote your House reps, you wrote your senators, you wrote the leadership, you wrote the Health Committee, and you did that with or without me. But then you said to me, and this is why I believe I was kicked off a Health Committee. Then you said to me, nothing's changing. What do we do? Well, I have this letter. And it was from a group of opponents of 90 plus people called the Vaccine Coalition. And some of you said, what can we do? Those are lobbyists, those are people, those are policy people that are backing and pushing your legislature and quite frankly, bullying you. They're bullying you, they're bullying me, but indirectly they're bullying the people. You know, they call me, guys, Dan, and everybody on here, they call me a populist Republican. So you have two forms of Republicans. You have the populist Republican and you have the establishment Republican. President Trump was a populist, okay? Those who stand up, I personally believe I'm not a politician. I am a representative, so I represent you. I am out with you. I went to the protest lines with the healthcare workers. I listen to my district. I'm out with you every month. I do an email, by the way, every month. I do screen them because I get trolls, so I do apologize. But if you're in my district, Westchester, Liberty Township, Fairfield Township, or even Fairfield City, Morgan Township, and Ross Township, since they will be in my district next GA, please feel free to write me because I'd love to connect with you. All of you I want to connect with, but again, I have to be very careful on something like this where everybody can watch, sending my newsletter out because then I'll get a bunch of hate mail. But so back to that list. So there were 90 bullies on that list. And so people said, what else can we do? And I said, well, you can verbalize to these people that oppose your freedom. And I think that's really what happened. They started writing, I won't name a lot of names, but the Ohio Hospital Association, the Ohio Association of Children's Hospitals, the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. People started writing that list of people on that vaccine coalition, expressing to them, hey, look, you're not representing us. And quite frankly, I spoke to members in many of these organizations, and they did not agree with the standpoint on the list that was happening with the opposition to the bill. So that's very curious to me. They'll tell you that they represent 2 million Ohioans, but what I would say to you by doing my own homework and talking to some of their own members, they did not agree with their organization's stance against HB 248. So where do we go from there? I think what you have to remember is you have the power. You, the voters, have the power. Don't ever think, and you'll never get it from me. I mean, if I ever am short with you, or I don't have time to talk with you, or I don't return a text, I promise you that there is never going to be a day, especially being a combat veteran and where I've been and a practicing nurse practitioner. I've actually, Dan, been an NP since 2004. But and I'm not practicing right now, but I was part of Operation Warp Speed. I don't want you guys to ever forget this. You must not go to sleep. You must not only work and pay your taxes anymore. We are in a situation now where that candy jar has been tapped into and eaten, and your government, whether it's local, federal, has overwhelmed you and is sitting on you. The only way that you can discipline an unruly child is to get more involved in its growth and development, correct? So
can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you got on the House, I mean, was it kind of a natural for you with your background that you kind of gravitated to the Health Committee right away, or was that decision made above you, or how was that decision made? Was it made by leadership, or how did it happen?
I think I am the only healthcare provider in the Republican caucus. So I think the decision to remove me was personally made by outside sources beyond just leadership in the House, although they all agreed that the Speaker, as well as all leadership, agreed that I should be removed. But it is a natural place for me. I was part of Operation Warp Speed. I should have been involved in the hearing today in Health Committee about HB 435, which will be an attempt at replacing HB 248, but I will tell you it is not a decent replacement. It is a natural place for me, Dan. I ask the questions. I'm the only provider on the caucus except for the Democrat, Dr. Liston. And so, yes, and I've asked some very pointed questions. I totally was in agreement with the Nurse Compact. There are so many times when my questioning, if you go back and look at committee, I'm very well thought out in my questions, and certainly, yes, it's natural. And I'm on 3 other committees.
So let me make sure I kind of understand what happened. So how many co-sponsors were on the bill or kind of when it was getting its traction?
We had 15 co-sponsors as the bill was originally introduced. And that is the bill that is currently discharged in the clerk's office right now. It's not dead, guys. It's not dead. At any time, the House could say, whoa, the bill that we have that we're voting on tomorrow, most likely, is not what we want. And 50 reps could go and sign that bill today, tomorrow, and discharge HB 248 right now to the floor. And they could do that tomorrow.
And so just to kind of elaborate this to everybody. So what happened was you started getting traction. You felt like you had maybe enough votes to pass it. And then these groups like the Chamber of Commerce came on and said, you know, if you pass this bill, we're going to make this really look bad for you in future elections. And then the reps started getting scared and kind of pulled away. Is that what happened?
Whenever you have that many opponents on a bill and you have there are the top 5 organizations. One of those is the Chamber. One's the Ohio Manufacturers Association. I don't hate these organizations. They just oppose me right now on this bill. But here's the problem, guys. They don't oppose me. They don't oppose just this bill. They're opposing your freedom. That is what, that's really always, that's what always drives me, Dan. It's the freedom. It's the soldier's cross that I have right here in my office. If we give up on the freedom and we just say, oh, there's too many opponents and we're not willing to fight for freedom, then it is my opinion that those who are buried in Area 60 in Arlington, then they died in vain. And so this bill has always just been a freedom bill for me. I was a very much pro-vaccination nurse practitioner. I have seen some things by working this bill that I quite frankly have been very, very discouraged with. So.
There's a question from Laura out there, and she wants to know, how can we stop these school boards from masking our kids? Any thoughts on that?
Well, my school board, I will tell you, being part of Lakota, which is the largest suburban school district in the state, I believe as Lakota goes, so goes the state when it comes to suburban school districts. My superintendent, Matt Miller, it would probably be worth having other superintendents. He'll hate me for this, but I think we have a pretty good relationship, at least today. We have a very liberal mask policy. So although Matt, and look, I do not agree that you should have to go to the throne of the school board and ask to free your child's face. I do not agree with that, okay? But in our school district has mandated masks, but they have not denied any exemptions. The weird and very strange thing is that very few parents are taking us up on it. We have somewhere between 16 and 19,000 students in Lakota, and it's all over the website, but people are not filling out exemptions. So I find that interesting. But what I would say is ask for a very liberal mask policy. Ask them to talk with my superintendent. I think that if my superintendent is willing to do that, that maybe having a superintendent talk with Lakota's superintendent and say, hey, how are you doing this? That might be an option. So I don't know if that helps you, but that is a good thing. I mean, certainly you can protest and just send them without it. You may get your child sent back home. You can go to the school board and should be at your school boards verbalizing your distaste with having your children have to wear a face diaper. But then lastly, I think in the most extreme case is obviously private schooling or pulling your child out of the public school system. My son's in a private school, one of them. And we did an exemption, so he does not wear the mask. Now, if they have an outbreak, which they did have one, the kids without a mask have to quarantine for 10 days or 7 days with a negative test, and the kids that wore masks were 5. That, that's not necessarily scientific, but it's what they decided. It was a risk I was willing to take as a parent to free my child's face. He's a teenager who's getting all broken out, and he's like, Mom, I don't want to break out. I'm like, hey, that's all right. We've all had COVID. So I think that's really good. Now, I have another son in a tech school, and they've never worn masks. So, and the superintendent of that school is weighing the cases and making decisions appropriately. And I love how they've done that. So I don't want to bring that out in case they have to do something or they get pressure because of me bringing their name out.
Now, I just wanted to ask you, how has your experience being in the military for so long, how has that shaped your view of politics? Could you compare that to me?
I think I believe, and you guys don't quote me on these numbers, but in the 1970s, about 70% of our Congress was military. In the military, we find that common goal and we work toward it. So when you can find, like I'm pro-life from conception to natural death. So I cannot find anything in common with a person who believes abortion's okay at 40 weeks, right? That's why I don't go through New York. I don't spend money where they kill babies. So I don't even go to New York. But I can't find anything in common there, but I just co-sponsored a Holocaust memorial bill with the Democrats. So what military does, I think, is it teaches us how to find that common mission and work toward a common goal and be willing to try to partner in areas that we can. And I think that's there. The other thing is that I'm not wishy-washy. If someone says something about me or throws me under the bus in the caucus, which I don't do, I don't throw people by name under the bus, and I just don't, then I will go to that person and I will say, why'd you do that? You know, this is inappropriate. We have in the military, we have conduct unbecoming of an officer. I call that conduct unbecoming of a legislator. You know, a lot of people want me to throw people by name under the bus. If you guys ask me a specific question, not here, but one-on-one, and you say, hey, does so-and-so appreciate this? Or do they like that? Or whatever, they're not getting back to me. Then I will recommend things, or I will tell them what I know. I'm not going to lie. But I won't throw another representative under the bus. I consider that inappropriate. So that might disappoint some people, but.
So, and I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, but so is what happened was that I sense the people that kind of helped sponsor 248, that they were kind of with you and with the people, with us, which is a great thing. And then the leadership just at some point said, hey, this woman is too much of a firecracker, and she's going to cause us nothing but problems, and we've got to move her off. Is that what happened?
Well, when Biden did his thing where he said that he was going to mandate vaccines for all companies with 100 employees or more, I had an employer who has 140 employees in Westchester tell me, I've never contacted a politician before, but I don't want the vaccine, and I don't want to mandate it to my employees, and you've got to do something. And at that point, we've been on vacation for 2.5 months, and my heart honestly has been with the people of Ohio. I didn't have a vacation. I've been worried about you guys. Why are we on vacation? We should have settled this on June 25th, the day we left. And on July 17th, there's a man that was in my district. He has a baby on the way, 5th child on the way. Just moved to Ohio from Indiana, got a job here, bought a house. Mom stays home with the kids, 5th baby on the way. They depend on healthcare from him. July 17th, he either got the jab or he lost his job. How do you think my summer was? I think when you love your people, when you love Ohioans and you're fighting for freedom, I don't care what they do to me, guys. It is worth the sacrifice, because that guy still I know his name, I know his wife. They can text me, they have my phone number. Not everybody can, but you know, he haunted me everywhere I went this summer. And I read my emails, and I read from you, and I read from Medina, and I read from Licking County, and I read from Toledo, and I read from my district, everywhere. And I kept thinking, are you guys not reading your email? So we at times it seems like we're tone deaf. And I would ask you guys, ring our cages, ring our bells, until you know we're hearing and until you know we're listening. Otherwise, get rid of me and get rid of anybody else who's not listening, and run against me. Run against anybody who you think needs to be gone, because you must wake up. You must, that won't be popular to say, but.
Yeah, well, I've got a bunch of questions coming in that I want to throw at you, but I just have this sense from the beginning of the pandemic, Jennifer, that I just couldn't believe that the legislature, and it's in the Constitution, they've got the power to act. They just didn't do anything. And it just took time and time and time. And I'm just getting this sense that our legislature is just a big swamp. And there's a couple guys just making political decisions. This is good for us, not good for us. Let's move her off the committee. Let's not do 248. The people want it, but too bad, it won't be good for us. And I get the feeling there's 2 or 3 guys, I think I know who they are, that are making all these calls that are just dragging Ohio through the swamp. Is my view of the world right? Or
well, Dan, that's what I was trying to tell you about, these organizations. It should be your elected officials that are making these choices, but there's a lot of pressure from in Columbus putting pressure on people. Now, when you have courage, and when you are And I'm not saying, even guys, it doesn't matter if money I mean, we have to take donations or we can't run a campaign. I mean, you just have to. That's the reality of running a campaign. But there are influences that come into the state legislature that are not elected. Okay, so that's one thing. But the second thing, Dan, is do you know that when you go around to the grocery store, you go to church, do you know that there are people around you that you just feel like they have scales over their eyes and you just want to rip it off and say, wake up, right? Well, your legislature is a great mini-cosm of the same people that you're out there shopping at the grocery store with. So we have some that got vaccinated, Republicans and Democrats alike. And I would argue that for those that don't really care, like I had a neighbor that said, get the shot. And she doesn't know my history, but she just wants me to get the shot. And I'm like, but you don't know, I already had COVID. You don't know if I have a medical history. You don't know anything about me. But the caucus can be very much the same. So some of us, like you, have friends that are awake. I'm sure all your friends are awake, Dan. But
Right.
but there are people even in, all of my circles that they just don't agree, right? And so the House, because we're a representative government, we also have that tug and pull. But the people have, like I said in the beginning, my little scenario, they've been working so hard, paying taxes, voting people in that are supposed to represent them. So they wake up one day, Dan, and they go, wait a minute, you're not representing me. Okay. So
No.
what do you need to do? You are going to have, it's going to be painful. You must sacrifice your time. You must stay on top of your representation. You must know what they're doing. You must watch our votes. You must be honest. I mean, if you guys agree with me 70% of the time, whether you're in my district or not, I'll be happy. Because I think in a marriage, I think that's pretty good. So I feel like that's just random. But if you guys agree with me 70% of the time, I have some really tough votes coming up. We have a sports betting vote that's coming up. I'm very torn up about this because clinically, gambling is very addictive. And I have a Democrat expert and I'm a Republican, but I have a Democrat expert who's like, absolutely not. He's also my constituent. He does counseling for this. And he's like, please, no, it'll increase homelessness and joblessness and divorces and, all that kind of stuff, increase bankruptcies. So there are going to be some really tough votes coming up. But again, if you guys agree with me 70% of the time, we're good. So are they listening? Only each group can make that determination in a majority. And so that's why I would say you guys need to know. In order to know, you can public records me. I'm not asking you to do that, but you can if you're my constituent. And you can say, I want to see the number of letters that came to Jen Gross about 248. I want to know how many were positive for 248, how many were negative, and I'm going to take the percentage and I'm going to know. You could do that with every single rep.
And what was the number? What was the number you said were positive?
For me, I would say, just if I had 80% and 20, maybe you got a Democrat that maybe, just maybe, you have a Democrat out there that actually had 60% for 248. But as a Democrat, they're against, they want vaccine mandates and they just didn't do it. Wouldn't it be curious to find that you had a large majority of Republicans that were all for 248 and the people took the time to write in? I would venture to say that that's what you're going to find. And I'll tell you why. Because our witnesses, 1,500, took the time to write in for committee itself. So I would argue that a lot more people wrote emails and things like that. Now we can delete our phone calls, so you won't be able to catch those. But you'd be able to take the percentage of pro and con and take that percentage.
I think everybody out there, Jennifer, is giving you a little assignment to consider possibly doing. Let's take a couple questions. This one's from Bill. Rep Gross, thank you for your service and taking the time for tonight's class. I appreciate very much what you have to say. What do you think is the likelihood House Bill 248 will pass through both houses, and what's the likelihood of 248 being veto proof?
Okay. So that is a great question. The the Senate president has already said that even if we pass it as a house, it's dead on arrival. I mean, it's bad news, I know, but what we put out today, guys, was HB 435. I believe you can find it. I'm not quite sure it's available on Legiscan. Last time I was there, it was like a line. I got a copy. It's 38 pages long. I think HB 248 was 6 pages in its original dropped form. Very simple. I'm a very simple-minded person. This bill, HB 435, carves out children's hospital employees. So you are not qualified to get exemptions. And it also carves out ICU employees from what I can tell so far. I have it right here, but it's a lot of pages. So after I'm done with you guys, I will be reading it. I would tell you it was just watered down if that's all it was, but it doesn't even protect you from vaccine passports. So it is, my HB 248 has dropped, had 4 exemptions, and then the ability to walk into a grocery store and say, I'm exempt, and just keep going. But I got a lot of pushback for that. This doesn't even provide that. This doesn't even stop vaccine passports. So we're being asked to vote on this tomorrow. And so this is likely the bill that will come out if we can in caucus come to some agreement. I'm sure there will be some amendments. There's no way that we can stop there. I mean, there was a tweet.
You're
Yeah,
not
go
on the
ahead.
committee. You're not on the committee, so you won't even be involved in that.
Oh, it was voted out of committee today, guys. It was
Okay.
already voted out of committee. 435, they took me off committee. They added 2 leadership team people in place of me and another representative. And it was voted out of committee, I believe today, 11-3. I don't know where I got that number, so don't quote me on that. But it was voted out of committee. All Republicans said yes, and it's going to the floor tomorrow. So we'll have it in caucus tomorrow, and we'll be talking about it.
And if I can maybe get with your aide tomorrow, I'll try to get that up on the Empower You America website for everybody tomorrow under tonight's class, if you want to read it. Question, could you make some sense of this whole issue about people like myself that have had COVID-19, why it doesn't seem to matter to anybody that we have, and that's not good enough, even though most people say it's better. Why can't anybody make sense of that?
Now, this bill and HB 248 in its original form did cover natural immunity, by the way. This bill does cover natural immunity, but the exemptions are only for current employees. The other thing about this bill is it sunsets in June 2023. So essentially you have this for 1.5 years and it's done. June 2023, well, almost 2 years. In June 2023, you no longer have a bill. So this is temporary. It does cover natural immunity. However, if you're an employee and you leave and you go to another like manufacturer or whatever, and you want to work there, and they say, we now require the vaccine, and you go, but I have natural immunity, and they go, we don't accept that. They don't have to. So this bill only covers exemptions for current employees in their current job.
Got it.
So, and I'm not an expert on it because again, I wasn't in committee today. I just got it. I was actually playing a baseball game before this. And
I think you said you had a big hit, right?
I actually got a second base hit and then I had to tip off.
Let's keep going. So a couple more questions. Joy asked the questions. How do you make a public records request? Joy, what I'd encourage you to do is go on the Empower You site to one of our public records classes. We've had many, or send me a note. I'll be glad to send you the form and how to do it. Christina said kind of the same thing. How do you view public records on our legislators? You've got to make a request, correct?
Mm-hmm. And it has to be pretty specific. I'll probably get in a lot of trouble for telling you guys about all this, but don't do it all at once.
Blame it on me. Just blame it on me. Megan makes the comment, would you please vote no?
Yeah. Vote no on the on 435.
I'm assuming I don't know for sure. Richard says, so we have the Chamber of Commerce, the Ohio manufacturers, et cetera, against Bill 248. Is not their position a position against our constitutional republic and globalism? And that's from Richard.
And I would also remind you guys that the Ohio Chamber is in no way connected to your local chamber. So we have local chambers, but they're not the same. They have no connection. I mean, they might have some similar goals and values, but financially, it's not like you have the American Nurses Association in DC, and then you have little other nursing associations through the states, and they're sort of connected. It's not like that. So I want to be really clear. That's one thing that I learned. And again, I also want to tell you, I don't hate the chamber. What I don't like is that they're fighting your freedom. Let's be really clear. I don't hate the people. I don't hate the chamber. They do some good things. But in this case, I have to err on the side of freedom.
Right.
And so I just want to be really clear on that.
Here's a question from Michael. He said, college students right now are being coerced to take the vaccines, and there are 700,000 adverse events reported in VAERS and 15,000 deaths. And the risks are not being acknowledged and certainly not disclosed to these kids. It's unconscionable. My son is at OU and he'll have to take the vaccine in 2 weeks if he isn't granted a medical exemption. There will be blood on their hands, no question. Is there anything I can do?
The one exemption that works better than medical is going to be religious. So if like they're coming out with a plant-based COVID vaccine, so if you're not a Christian and you worship trees and you don't want your vaccine from a plant, I'm just being facetious. But the point is this, that a religious exemption is harder to fight than a medical exemption. I will tell you with this bill, they will be covered, and they cannot, you get a note from your doctor for a medical exemption. They can't go, oh, we don't accept that. Too bad, so sad. All that you need is a medical exemption. Religious exemption, you do a religious attestation, and then that's it. They can't go, oh, you need a copy from your priest or you need your pastor, because even quite frankly, some priests and pastors are not signing religious exemption letters, which again, how can they stop your First Amendment? I mean, so does that help? Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it did.
With this bill, he will be covered. It covers colleges. It only carves out a few areas, like I said, the healthcare workers. And I don't mean only, because again, in the military, we say we leave no one on the battlefield. To leave my fellow healthcare workers on the battlefield in the children's hospitals it's just heartbreaking. So we're going to duke it out tomorrow. But here's the thing, guys. My understanding is that the Senate will pull out any private business. So some hospitals are all private industry and all private business. We've got some private businesses in here. The thing they've carved out is some healthcare workers, and now then I hear at the Senate they're going to carve out private business. That's just what I've been reading in the paper, and by what I'm seeing in the directions, the arrows look like they're pointing in that direction, which is disappointing.
I can't imagine how you feel being so passionate about this subject and having them yank you off that and not being able to inject yourself into it. What's on your mind? What's your?
It's worth it to fight for your freedom. It's a worthy sacrifice for you guys to see and wake up and see that when you speak, and guys, I may be destroyed. I mean, I may not be reelected again, because they'll come after me. Some may come after me. I hope not. I hope that my constituents and that people appreciate what I've done and that, they volunteer to help me, but it's going to be a rough battle, because when you stand, you become a target. Look what happened to President Trump. Why do you think he's gone? Because he was targeted. So, they asked me, how does it feel? Absolutely. Do I think it was a disservice to all Ohioans to take me off? I mean, yeah, I think it's very short-sighted, because I would have been there, but they wouldn't have gotten it passed in an hour today or 2 hours or however long they were.
So Megan has a question. Can we explore Section 21 of the Ohio Constitution? We are all being compelled to participate in a healthcare system through all these mandates.
People ask me about that all the time. That is an incorrect application of the Ohio Constitution. That particular part of the Constitution was put in there because of Obamacare, which says that you cannot be required to participate in a healthcare system, not a health procedure, or what it says is you can't be forced to buy insurance. They're already telling you can get this shot for free. You don't have to participate in an insurance plan. So that's what that is right there. And people have brought that to me. I did use it and I do have it in my HB 248 notebook. I can see where you're going with that, but the true intent of the law has to be applied. And in that case, that amendment that was placed in our Ohio Constitution was directly related to Obamacare so that you cannot be forced to participate and buy health insurance. Do you remember that? Remember when they said that we would get fined from the IRS if we didn't? That's why that's in there.
The personal mandate. Yeah, Richard asked a question in 248. Does 248 provide a choice for across the board of vaccines, including polio?
Yes, it does. It does not abolish all vaccines. The Vaccine Coalition told all my children's hospitals and many physicians, AAP, they propagated the lie that the bill does away with all vaccines. That is false. In Ohio, all of your children have always had, since the 1970s, three exemptions: religious, reasons of conscience, and medical exemptions. All I did with this bill, guys, was pull it all the way through private, public, industry, colleges, and made it the same for everybody across the board, no matter what career field, no matter what you're doing, that you could not be mandated, and any future vaccine, and no passports, and no discrimination by, oh, you don't want to get the shot, then you have to wear a mask. Oh, you don't want to get the shot, then you got to get tested twice a week. It covered all of that. So you're not getting that in 435.
Couple questions. Michael, when again is that bill being voted on? I'm assuming came at 435. Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow
It came out, it was presented, it was dropped in health, sponsor testimony in health today. I want to, can I just say something? Can I say something that really irritates me?
Yeah.
You're going to hear people say, oh, she didn't go through the process. Well, discharge petition is in the rules. It got 6 hearings, 248 did. It reverted back to its original form, which is all included in the sub bill, but it is way simpler as introduced bill. So when you hear people tell you it's unconstitutional, then get rid of that part. There was a prevailing clause. But when you hear people tell you that that I didn't go through the process, that is a lie. When they took this bill today and they heard it, passed it, and we vote on it tomorrow. Really?
I love what you tried to do. I think it was masterful, and I think you did the right thing. Joy says, I'm so appalled at the antics and tactics of the opposition. How can we trust anyone at this point? It seems they're all accepting the bribe over the people's voice.
Become them. Become them. Become a lobbyist. Become a lobbyist. Become a legislator. Have coffee when your legislators are in district. Tell them you want to meet with them. I meet with my district every month. I have a coffee chat every single month, and I write a newsletter every single month. Why?
Well, what I'm going to do with my rep, Jennifer, I'm in District 28. They call it the Great 28. And the single biggest factor and thing that's being worked on in District 28 is making the sugar cookie the official cookie of Ohio. That is the big overriding issue in District 28.
And they have you there.
And what I promise you is that I'm not going to drink coffee. I'm gonna eat sugar cookies with my my representative and just give her a pat on the back for her incredibly great work. Talk to me about, have you had a chance to vision where you go from here? You're a fighter, and people out there are so appreciative of you being on our side, because we see the sludge up there. We see the 3 or 4 guys thinking they're running Ohio, and we citizens have to find a way back. We see somebody like you and we think we've got a shot, and then we see you kind of thrown down. What's next for what are you going to go to next? Any thoughts?
I have a lot of legislation. I have a piece of legislation I have a couple of deregulatory bills, because part of our problem in Ohio is that we are highly, highly regulated. We regulate business too much. That costs us money. It costs us business. Businesses don't want to come here because, our tax code's 4,000 pages long. And so we need to deregulate. So I have 2 deregulation bills. I won't go into the detail. I have a homeless veterans bill I'm doing testimony on tomorrow, which fills in the gap, because every night we have about 1,000 homeless veterans in Ohio. and they have no place to lay their head. Anyone who is involuntarily homeless, I believe we ought to take care of. And that's just, this is a bill that just fills the gap until we can get them into the VA. So that's a really good bill. I have a second chances bill that I really want to talk about. I have two pro-life bills. One's a resolution, one's a bill. I just dropped a pro-life bill last week. It strengthens our consent for abortion. Makes it, I won't go into the details, but it's a pro-life bill. And then I have a resolution called the Day of Tears, which I'll be dropping soon. But my second chances bill, I'm really excited about. Can I tell you guys about it?
Absolutely.
What it does is it's a jobs bill, but it takes people that are felony 3, 4, and 5. And I haven't had it looked at yet by the majority leader, who's an attorney, or other attorneys yet in the House. But it takes a person who gets one felony 3, 4, or 5, reduces it to a misdemeanor 1, and gets them off the felony record, which allows them to get into the workforce, and they're no longer a felon. Now, it's only one felony. So if someone has 2, 3, or 4 felonies, it's not going to help you. But for that one person who had a very bad day one time, it gives them a second chance. And I'm really, really excited, because who doesn't need a second chance? And it's also, it's legal reform. You can negotiate this in the penalty phase and it only works for a non-violent, non-sexual offender, by the way. But I love the idea of getting people off the felony record. So that's really exciting. I have a CAT tax bill, the commercial activities tax bill. We'll be dropping, I dropped that already, but I'll be doing sponsor testimony. That's a hard lift because we get $1.9 billion a year from that tax. But I hate tax. So, so I'm pro-life.
We're on the same team there.
Yeah. And I'm also, you want to know something? I'm
What?
pro Second Amendment. I am so pro Second Amendment, because here's what I fear. When you fight for freedom and you lose freedom, when you fight for freedom and we're losing freedom, this is not freedom. This is compromising freedom, any of it, because even 248 in its original form requiring you to have exemptions. Why? Because 2 years ago, you didn't have to tell someone you were vaccinated or not. This is an edge toward, and what do you think they're going to come for next? They're going to come for your exemptions. Mark my words. If we don't fight, we must fight. So to the Second Amendment, I hope we don't get there, guys, but that has to be the next thing. We must protect our Second Amendment rights, and we must make sure that we strengthen them. So, I'm a very, I would argue, a lot of people say, oh, she's a far right Republican. Here's what I would argue. I'm an actual Republican. So read the platform, because if you read the platform, the 2016 platform, because I don't believe President Trump put out a 2021, read the platform. When you look at your legislator, are they following? Are they pro-life? Are they traditional marriage? Are they pro-Second Amendment? Are they limited government? Are they fiscal responsibility? If they say, well, I'm pro-life, but I want to grow Medicaid because 52% of our state budget isn't enough, then that's probably a sign they're not a fiscal conservative. So
Jennifer Gross,
anyway.
it's good to know you've got so many more things on your agenda. You're such an important legislator in Ohio. We're all super appreciative for you protecting our liberty, because there just aren't that many people that do it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
For
and I
coming
need
to
you
empower
guys.
you tonight. And anything you need us to put up on the website, we'll be glad to. And
Okay.
and have a great night and keep working on that softball.
Can I leave you guys with one
Yes.
thing? Can I
Mhm.
say one thing? I need you guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't ever forget your power. We only get here because of you. And you guys have the power. Don't ever think that we are smarter, better, or anything like that. And please pray for me, because I can feel your prayers and I really need them. So God bless you. And God bless the great state of Ohio, and fight with me, not with me, but beside me. Stand with me. It strengthens me.
God bless you, Jennifer Gross. Thank you for
Thank you, Dan.
joining Empower You. As we kind of round up, folks, I just wanted to share with you an Empowered Citizen Award. And before we do that tonight, I wanted to let you know who had won the 2 giveaways. Nita T won the Ben Shapiro book, so she'll be getting that. And then the big prize, Larry T, you won the Souvenir Joe Biden horse reins. I hope you've just got something great to do with those. Let's lighten up a little bit. It's been a great night. I just can't believe how powerful these two leaders are. But let's laugh a little bit. This takes me back. This Empowered Citizen Award takes me back to the early days of court TV. I used to love it when that came out. Saturday Night Live and O.J. Simpson. Watch this short video. It's fun. Ooh, hold on.
According to retailers, the most popular Halloween mask this year is O.J. Simpson. And the most popular Halloween greeting is, "I'll kill you and that guy who's bringing over your glasses," or treat. Arriving back in the U.S. after his week in London, O.J. Simpson was asked by a reporter why he hadn't spent Mother's Day with his children. A visibly annoyed Simpson replied, "Idiot, I didn't spend Mother's Day with my kids because I killed their mother." Well, O.J. Simpson's lawyers stopped feuding this week, finally. The Dream Team, F. Lee Bailey and Robert Shapiro, were able to put aside their differences and express their admiration for each other after O.J. threatened to cut their heads off. In his book, O.J. Simpson says that he would have taken a bullet or stood in front of a train for Nicole. Man, I'm going to tell you, that is some bad luck when the one guy who would have died for you kills you. That's probably...
Sorry about that. It's just so fun to hear the great Norm Macdonald, born 1959, just died in September, had a 10-year battle with cancer. He spent 5 seasons on Saturday Night Live. I really think during the heyday, doing the Weekend Update. He was often on Conan O'Brien, David Letterman, edgy to say the least. I hope that didn't offend you. He's an empowered citizen, I think, because he was funny. He made us laugh, and laughing is a good thing. Norm Macdonald, rest in peace. I want to thank our great guests tonight, Ruth Edmonds. So glad you got a chance to meet her, and Jennifer Gross for sharing time with us tonight. Both of them are just shining examples of people willing to go out and push and making our world and Ohio better, and it needs it. So my message to you tonight is go out tonight and do great things. Go out and make somebody laugh like Norm Macdonald, and most of all, go out and empower you.